Hello, everyone. I'm Elon Goldenberg, Jewish Outreach Director and Policy Advisor for the Harris-Walz campaign. Thank you for gathering here today for this crucial conversation with only 25 days until Election Day. As we head over the next few hours into Yom Kippur, let me just start by wishing all of you a Gmar Chatima Tova. And let me also say that we have a large Jewish community in Florida, and we are thinking and praying for all affected by Hurricane Milton. The high holidays are always a serious time for reflection, but especially this year as they coincided with the somber anniversary of October 11th. A year ago, I was working as Vice President Harris's Middle East advisor in the White House, and I saw how she responded in the aftermath of that terrible day. A few days after, we went in to brief her before her first meeting with American hostage families. We started talking to her and doing the usual prep. And she looked at us and she just stopped us. And she said, "Stop. This is fundamentally different. I need you to go back and get everything you possibly can about these people that I'm meeting. And even more importantly, you have to go get everything you possibly can about their loved ones who are being held in Gaza. Because I need to know everything I possibly can about them when I go into that meeting. And even more so, I need to know all I can about their loved ones. And I need to demonstrate to them that I have taken the time and care to learn about them. That is what I owe to them." For me, that was just a very important moment working for her. It said so much about her, how she feels about Israel, that she feels it in her kishkas. Uh, it demonstrates how she leads, how she feels empathy and cares. And frankly, that's the kind of person I trust to sit in the Oval Office and make the most consequential decisions for our country. It stands in such sharp contrast to Donald Trump, who is already scapegoating American Jews for his election loss, constantly saying Jews need to have their heads examined for not voting for him, and would sell Israel out in a second if it suited his own personal interests. For us as Jews, there's only one candidate who reflects the Jewish values of tikkun olam, tzedakah, and chesed, Vice President Kamala Harris. But before we hear from her, it is my profound honor to introduce you to somebody else who also embodies these values and knows Kamala Harris pretty well. Second gentleman, Doug Emhoff.
Thank you, Elon, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, not only for the campaign, but for all of us in our community, but in all communities. And it's just an honor to work with you. As we head towards Yom Kippur this evening, wishing everyone an easy fast as well. Yom Kippur is a time to reflect on the past year. And this year, the high holidays are particularly hard as they are overlapping with the one-year anniversary of October 7th and those horrific attacks. The pain of that day, the rawness of the emotions, it's just seared on our souls. It's still with us. It's always going to be with us. And to commemorate the one-year anniversary, you may have seen that Kamala and I planted a pomegranate tree at the Vice President's residence. It meant a lot to me, it meant a lot to us to leave behind a symbol of hope, to commemorate not only the pain that we're all feeling, but also the resilience and strength of the Jewish people. We're never going to forget, but we will not lose our faith. As Jews, we must continue to live openly, proudly, joyfully, and without fear. And this is personal for Kamala. She's been deeply invested in the security of Israel and in the protection of the Jewish people her entire career. Kamala goes way back with the American Jewish community, long before we met. When she was a senator, she in fact took me on my first trip to Israel. It was important for her to do that. It was important for me to do that. And she put a kippah on my head as we prayed at the Western Wall. We have celebrated a series of firsts as Vice President and Second Gentleman, affixing the first mezuzah, the first Passover Seder, the first menorah lighting. But through all this, it's really her deep commitment to the Jewish people and to Israel. And this was amplified, especially after October 7th. It became personal for her in a whole new way, as it has become personal for all of us. When Kamala became vice president, she was the one who encouraged me to use my unique platform as the first Jewish spouse of a president or vice president. And we had already witnessed a rise in anti-Semitism dating back to Charlottesville and then Tree of Life. So long before October 7th, she knew we had to take on this fight, just as she has fought against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate her entire career. And Kamala was the one who pushed me to use my microphone to combat anti-Semitism. And even when it's hard, even when it's difficult for me to do it, she still pushes me to do it because I have to. I'm proud of the work we've done, including creating the first ever national strategy to fight anti-Semitism. In the year ahead, our work continues, but so will our joy. Kamala knows how important my Judaism and my faith is to me. I love being Jewish. I love the joy that comes with being Jewish. And Kamala, well, she shares that love with me. And when Kamala's president, she's going to continue to stand up to fight against anti-Semitism and fight against hate in all of its forms. And she will continue to be a friend, an advocate for the Jewish people. And now it's my honor to turn it over to my wife and our next president, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you, my darling husband. And I want to thank you in front of all of the friends for all of the leadership that you have shown and the inspiration that you have given so many, and in particular, our young people. Many of you may know Doug has been visiting everything from summer camps to youth organizations and reminding our young leaders of the importance of their pride and their strength, especially at moments like this. So thank you, Doug. And it is wonderful to be with so many friends during the high holidays. And my wish, of course, for everyone is that you have a good new year ahead and an easy fast. Now, I know this year, as Elon said, the high holidays come at a particularly difficult time. And earlier this week, of course, we marked the 1 year since the brutal Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. And I know it has just rekindled what has been an enduring and deep fear among Jews, not just in Israel, but in the United States and around the world. And I know how the existence of a secure, democratic homeland for the Jewish people means so much for Jews and all of us, regardless of where they live. I will never forget October 7th, and the world must never forget. And we all must work to ensure nothing like the horrors of that day can ever happen again. To that end, as president, it is my pledge that I will always ensure Israel has what it needs to defend itself from Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. And I will always support Israel's right to defend itself. My commitment to the security of Israel is unwavering. And this, as Doug has said, as Elon knows, has been a lifelong commitment. Starting, as many of you know, when I was a young girl and collected donations on behalf of the Jewish National Fund to plant trees for Israel. Many of you probably recall those little blue boxes. And as president, I will always work to ensure the safety and security of the people of Israel and Jewish people here in the United States and around the world. When it comes to the war in Gaza, we have seen so much suffering and pain over the past year, and it is time to bring the conflict to an end. And I am working to ensure it ends such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, freedom, and self-determination. We are not giving up on a ceasefire and hostage deal. We cannot. And I will never stop fighting for the release of all the hostages, including, of course, the 7 American citizens, living and deceased, who are still held. We are fighting for them every day. As Elon and Doug have mentioned, I have met and spent time with their families, and we cannot and will not rest until all the hostages are home. We know Hamas is not the only threat Israel faces. On October 8th, Hezbollah began launching rockets at Israel, and the Houthis in Yemen began targeting Israeli cities. And what is the common thread? Well, we all know Iran, which has now also directly attacked Israel twice. I am clear-eyed. Iran is a destabilizing and dangerous force. When Donald Trump was president, he let Iran off the hook. After Iran and its proxies attacked U.S. bases and American troops, Trump did nothing. And he pulled out of the nuclear deal without any plan, leading to an unconstrained Iranian nuclear program. On the other hand, our administration struck Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria when they attacked American troops. And we are the first administration to ever directly defend Israel. On April 13, I joined President Biden and our national security team for more than 5 hours as we and a coalition of nations that we brought together responded to Iran's unprecedented attack. And then, of course, last week, on October 1st, I was in the Situation Room for more than 3 hours, coordinating in real time with our military leadership as our forces intercept missiles over the skies of Israel. Make no mistake, as president, I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend American forces and interests from Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. And I will never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. Diplomacy is my preferred path to that end, but all options are on the table. And let's be clear, Donald Trump is not only a threat on the world stage. As we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism in our own country, Trump has espoused dangerous and hateful anti-Semitic tropes, creating fear and division. He praised some of the neo-Nazi marchers in Charlottesville as, quote, very fine people. He reportedly said Hitler did some, quote, good things. I have spent my entire career fighting anti-Semitism. I prosecuted hate crimes as a district attorney. I continued this work as Attorney General of California, where I published an annual report on hate crimes to ensure that policymakers and law enforcement respond with a sense of urgency and an understanding of the ubiquity of the problem. And as Vice President, I am proud to be implementing the first ever national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, which of course Doug was an extraordinary leader in making sure would be created. And as president, I will do everything in my power to combat anti-Semitism whenever and wherever we see it. On the topic of anti-Semitism, I know across the country, many Jewish parents, grandparents are worried for their children who are on college campuses. And I know many Jewish students have feared attending class in recent months. As we know, in a democracy, everyone has a right to make their voices heard. I believe in the freedom of speech. I also believe there is no place for hate or violence in our country. When individuals participate in calls to violence and harassment against Jews, that is anti-Semitism, and I condemn it. When Jews are targeted because of their beliefs or identity, and when Israel is singled out because of anti-Jewish hatred, that is anti-Semitism, and I condemn it. Each university must ensure all students and faculty are safe and secure on campus. In the United States of America, we can and we must ensure people can peacefully make their voices heard while we also stand up for the rule of law and stand up against hate. And this is a priority for me. In conclusion, I will say, everyone, I believe, should have the freedom to practice their religion and express their faith, and the freedom to be safe from violence and fear. In many ways, that is what we are fighting for in this election. Ours is a fight for freedom. like the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body, like the freedom to be safe from gun violence, like the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. So to the friends gathered, I know part of the reason we are on this call together is we love our country. And I do believe it is the highest form of patriotism, of an expression of love for our country, to fight for the ideals of our country. Election day is in 25 days, and early voting is already starting in some states. So let's please, in the spirit of the holidays and in the spirit of this moment, let's please use these next 25 days to continue the work of building community and building coalitions. Let's remind each other we have so much more in common than what separates us. And let's implement that spirit by also texting our friends, family members, and neighbors to make sure they know the stakes and to make sure they know their power in this moment. And as we continue to energize, organize, and mobilize, let us know that we are all in this together, in this fight for our democracy, for our country. And as I always say, when we fight, we win. Thank you all, and please take care. Thank you.
I'm Hillary Brandenburg, Jewish Outreach Deputy Director for the Harris-Walz campaign. Thank you to Vice President Harris and Second Gentleman Emhoff for addressing our community as we go into Yom Kippur. As we end Yom Kippur by hearing the sound of the shofar, let that be our call to action to do everything we can over the next 25 days to elect Vice President Harris and Governor Walz to the White House. It starts with us. We know many of you already have your ballots. Make your own plan to vote, whether you vote early or on November 5th. Reach out to everyone in your own network and ask how they plan to cast their ballot. Sign up to phone bank, to knock doors, and to support voter protection efforts. We'll follow up by email with specifics on how you can get involved. From all of us on the Harris-Walz team, Gamar Chatima Tova, and thank you.